Hi friends, I'm Samriddhi Banerjee and welcome to my channel The Mad Reader. Today is the 93rd birth anniversary of Anne Frank, a German-Dutch diarist of Jewish heritage and one of the most discussed Jewish victims of the Holocaust. On this auspicious day, I am going to present Anne Frank's biography and 15 beautiful quotes written by her. The websites from which I am reading the biography and the quotes are given in the description. So let's start. Anne Frank was born in the German city of Frankfurt in 1929. Anne's sister Margot was 3 years her senior. Unemployment was high and poverty was severe in Germany, and it was the period in which Adolf Hitler and his party were gaining more and more supporters. Hitler hated the Jews and blamed them for the problems in the country. He took advantage of the rampant anti-Semitic sentiments in Germany. The hatred of the Jews and the poor economic situation made Anne's parents, Otto and Edith Frank, decide to move to Amsterdam. There, Otto founded a company that traded in pectin, a gelling agent for making jam. Before long, Anne felt right at home in the Netherlands. She learned the language, made new friends, and went to a Dutch school near her home. Her father worked hard to get his business off the ground, but it was not easy. Otto also tried to set up a company in England, but the plan fell through. Things looked up when he started selling herbs and spices in addition to the pectin. On 1st September 1939, when Anne was 10 years old, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, and so the Second World War began. Not long after, on 10th May 1940, the Nazis also invaded the Netherlands. 5 days later, the Dutch army surrendered. Slowly but surely, the Nazis introduced more and more laws and regulations that made the lives of the Jews more difficult. For instance, the Jews could no longer visit parks, cinemas, or non-Jewish shops. The rules meant that more and more places became off-limits to Anne. Her father lost his company since Jews were no longer allowed to run their own business. All Jewish children, including Anne, had to go to separate Jewish schools. The Nazis took things further, one step at a time. Jews had to start wearing a Star of David on their clothes, and there were rumors that all Jews would have to leave the Netherlands. When Margot received a call-up to report for a so-called labor camp in Nazi Germany on 5th July 1942, her parents were suspicious. They did not believe the call-up was about work and decided to go into hiding the next day in order to escape persecution. In the spring of 1942, Anne's father had started furnishing a hiding place in the annex of his business premises at Prinsengracht 263. He received help from his former colleagues. Before long, they were joined by 4 more people. The hiding place was cramped. Anne had to keep very quiet and was often afraid. On her 13th birthday, just before they went into hiding, Anne was presented with a diary. During the 2 years in hiding, Anne wrote about events in the Secret Annex, but also about her feelings and thoughts. In addition, she wrote short stories, started a novel, and copied passages from the books she read in her book of beautiful sentences. Writing helped her pass the time. When the Minister of Education of the Dutch government in England made an appeal on Radio Orange to hold on to war diaries and documents, Anne was inspired to rewrite her individual diaries into one running diary titled Het Achterhuis, or the Secret Annex in English. Anne started rewriting her diary, but before she was done, she and the other people in hiding were discovered and arrested by police officers on 4th August 1944. The police also arrested two of the helpers. To this day, we do not know the reason for the police raid. Despite the raid, part of Anne's writing was preserved. Two other helpers took the documents before the secret annex was emptied by the order of the Nazis. Via the offices of the Sicherheitsdienst, or the German security police, a prison in Amsterdam, and the Westerbork transit camp, the people from the secret annex were put on transport to the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration and extermination camp. The train journey took 3 days, during which Anne and over 1,000 others were packed closely together in cattle wagons. There was little food and water and only a barrel for a toilet. Upon arrival at Auschwitz, Nazi doctors checked to see who would and who would not be able to do heavy forced labor. Around 350 people from Anne's transport were immediately taken to the gas chambers and murdered. Anne, Margot, and their mother were sent to the labor camp for women. Otto ended up in a camp for men. In early November 1944, Anne was put on transport again. She was deported to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp with Margot. Their parents stayed behind in Auschwitz. The conditions in Bergen-Belsen were horrible too. There was a lack of food, it was cold, wet, and there were contagious diseases. Anne and Margot contracted typhus. In February 1945, they both died owing to its effects, Margot first and shortly afterwards. Anne's father Otto was the only one of the people from the secret annex to survive the war. He was liberated from Auschwitz by the Russians, and during his long journey back to the Netherlands, he learned that his wife Edith had died. Once in the Netherlands, he heard that Anne and Margot were no longer alive either. Anne's writing made a deep impression on Otto. He read that Anne had wanted to become a writer or a journalist, and that she had intended to publish her stories about life in the secret annex. Friends convinced Otto to publish the diary, and in June 1947, 3,000 copies of Het Achterhuis, the secret annex, were printed. And that was not all. The book was later translated into around 70 languages and adapted for stage and screen. People all over the world were introduced to Anne's story, and in 1960, the hiding place became a museum, the Anne Frank House. Until his death in 1980, Otto remained closely involved with the Anne Frank House and the museum. He hoped that readers of the diary would become aware of the dangers of discrimination, racism, and hatred of Jews. Well friends, that was all for Anne Frank's biography. Now I am going to present 15 beautiful quotes written by her. So let's start. Number 1. Look at how a single candle can both defy and define the darkness. Number 2. In the long run, the sharpest weapon of all is a kind and gentle spirit. Number 3. I don't want to have lived in vain like most people. I want to be useful or bring enjoyment to all people, even those I've never met. I want to go on living even after my death. Number 4. I think a lot, but I don't say much. Number 5. A quiet conscience makes one strong. Number 6. We all live with the objective of being happy. Our lives are all different and yet the same. Number 7. Human greatness does not lie in wealth or power, but in character and goodness. People are just people, and all people have faults and shortcomings, but all of us are born with a basic goodness. Number 8. How noble and good everyone could be if every evening before falling asleep they were to recall to their minds the events of the whole day and consider exactly what has been good and bad. Then, without realizing it, you try to improve yourself at the start of each new day. Number 9. Everyone has inside him a piece of good news. The good news is that you don't know how great you can be, how much you can love, what you can accomplish, and what your potential is. Number 10. Laziness may appear attractive, but work gives satisfaction. Number 11. I can't imagine how anyone can say I am weak and then remain so. After all, if you know it, why not fight against it? Why not try to train your character? The answer was, because it's so much easier not to. Number 12. People who have a religion should be glad, for not everyone has the gift of believing in heavenly things. Number 13. How lovely to think that no one need wait a moment. We can start now, start slowly changing the world. How lovely that everyone, great and small, can make their contribution towards introducing justice straight away. And you can always give something, even if it is only kindness. Number 14. I have reached the point where I hardly care whether I live or die. The world will keep on turning without me, and I can't do anything to change the events anyway. Number 15. Go outside to the fields, enjoy nature and the sunshine. Go out and try to recapture happiness in yourself and in God. Think of all the beauty that's still left in and around you and be happy. Well friends, that was all for this video. If you liked it, do click on the like button, and if you would like to hear more stories of this sort, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.